Gentlemen, no further comment or press conference or welcome party. No party like a Westbrook party. LeBron James in L.A., according to a source familiar with his plans. First public appearance after today's news will be at the opening of the I Promise School in Akron, Ohio on July 30th. Speaking of Akron, we're going to talk here in this segment about the ramifications the Cavaliers want to get on set and across the way. But first, we need to know about the financials to understand the possibilities, Eric Pincus. So, no LeBron. Tell us where we are in terms of finances now for Cleveland with this roster.
Well, obviously, you have a different approach. You're not trying to win at all costs. You've got a roster where you're paying $110 million for what is probably some level of rebuild. In the East, we don't know how deep the rebuild is. You've got Kevin Love, who's been an all-star. You've got a really nice pick in Colin Sexton and some good players. And I feel like a lot of times people have said, oh, LeBron played with nobody and no help. I don't find that to be true. There are a lot of really good basketball players on here. How good? I don't know. Who's the leader? The big question is Rodney Hood. He's their restricted free agent. The tax is about 125, right around there, 24. So they can spend about 14 million. This can't be a tax team anymore. They're a repeater. For this team that's not going to be an elite team in the East, you need to save some money. So they can look to trade. I know that there's been reports that Kevin Love is not available. That might change. He's in the last year of his deal. And are they going to reinvest in Kevin Love in whatever their new incarnation will be? Or if he's going to leave as a free agent, you get some value for him if you can. Maybe they wait to the trade deadline. Maybe he's not an off-season move. But they have a lot to they just got this news, I assume, so they have a lot to think about. What direction? Who is the leader of this team? What identity they want to have? That's exciting. I mean, I know Cleveland fans don't want to hear that. But they have a new direction, and it's a new start. So let's see where they can go with what they have.
All right, Eric, thank you very much. Zara, I want to start with, when we toss it out there, asking you about the pulse of this city. Obviously, you know it well. You know what it meant for LeBron to be there the first time. If you can, just kind of speak to how different it is maybe this time around than the first time, considering he did get the championship that the city had so longed for.
I was actually shocked talking to people over the last couple of weeks how many honestly felt he was coming back. And they were very, very sure of the fact that he will be back in the Cleveland Cavaliers uniform this year, which kind of shocked me in talking to them. I think they'll handle it much differently now. There were others who were like, look, he's gone. He won the championship that he came back to try and win. The Cavs finally got a championship here after 50-something years, and he's entitled to move on if that's what he wants. But he certainly, as Griff has told us over and over again, he has had such an impact in the city, the area of Cleveland, Akron, what he's done outside of basketball. I don't know how you make that back up again when you lose a guy of this magnitude.
All right, we'll take it back here on set.
Well, you don't. I mean, look.
Why? I thought they wanted to talk.
Yeah, I thought you guys were going to keep talking.
I thought Seika was going to.
I think Seika was just so eating. Seika, do you want to ask us something again?
No, I'm done asking you questions.
Hey, guys, Seika, I got something. Wait, guys, let me throw this out. Since just
Czar wants your job. I figured it out.
I mean, should we
He's going to ask the question.
Let me just ask you this one. Since you're saying that right now the Lakers might be 6 or 7 in the Western Conference as it is right now, wasn't there a guy in Oklahoma City that didn't want to take a buyout, but you think he might be interested in taking a buyout right now?
That's why we go to you.
Or a stretch out.
Yeah.
Right?
Might be a little more firepower all of a sudden. Just wondering.
And there are probably a few more guys, veteran guys, that are sitting around saying, hey, I'll take that buyout and go join them for a minimum.
It's the same guys we talked about previously that could potentially end up in Golden State for minimum, right? Yeah. Because everybody is attracted to that situation. It's now created a very similar situation in Los Angeles. And Czar, that is a great, great call in terms of a name that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, everybody knows he's one of the Banana Boat crew. And so that is a player that LeBron would absolutely want to make sure he acquires.
Paul wouldn't take a buyout, would he?
I don't see that. That's a lot of money.
That 160, you don't think he wants that? Let me ask you, Griff, about something that Eric talked about when he looked at that roster. I think a lot of people look at it and they say, well, now they should trade Kevin Love and break it up and do whatever they can to start over. They have Sexton, play younger players. But they have said publicly they're not going to trade Love. And I know you feel that that's accurate, that they will try and win. Take me through what you think.
I believe that's the case for a lot of different reasons, but primarily, again, the Eastern Conference is sort of viewed as being wide open. They have Kevin Love, who's a perennial all-star, a player who very much was not getting to play to the full bandwidth of Kevin Love in many circumstances because they didn't run the ball through him in the same way that Minnesota once did.
Yeah.
Kevin put up far bigger numbers in Minnesota. Well, he's a better basketball player today than he was then. And so you can ride a player like Kevin, and if you put the right pieces together there, they have reason to believe they can be competitive. And they have a situation where they've only got like $68 million on the books next year.
Right.
They're not going to do anything to jeopardize that space.
Sure.
And why wouldn't you play to be competitive this year? You don't have to tear it down to the
That's
studs
true.
because you're already in a situation where you have more than max next year.
That is true. That is true. I wonder about a guy like Kyle Korver, though. You know, Kyle Korver is, 1 year left on, or I may have 2 years left.
It's 1 year and the team has
One team option, $7.5 million. Kyle Korver is a guy that a lot of teams would love to have.
Like LeBron in Los Angeles.
Exactly. So I think that's I agree with you. I think you have to field a representative team, and Kevin Love gives you a chance to be a representative team with Sexton and the other pieces. But I think Kyle Korver, to me, as I look at that roster, would be a guy that I think a lot of teams would be interested in right away to get in a trade.
And him going back to Philadelphia, where it all started,
Where they
is
need a shooter.
perfect fit.
Yeah.
Sure
and
is.
his number is very
Sure
likely
is.
going to be more advantageous than J.J. Redick's.
Right,
But if you
very good
could
point.
get them both,
Get them both. You need as much shooting as you can, right?
Now you're really starting to put the right pieces
like that.
around those play creators.
And it helps Cleveland with their attack situation, brings the payroll down
Exactly.
a little bit. So,
Further down. By the way, 4 years, $82 million for Aaron Gordon to stay in Orlando.
Yeah, that's where I was just going to go and ask you about that because now it seems like the dam has opened up a little bit, obviously, in terms of activity. What?
We're just going to skip over Mario Hezonja to the Knicks. We're just going to go right to Aaron Gordon.
Had numbers, I gave them to you.
Unbelievable.
Are you trying to make up for giving me garbage about Tavares earlier?
No, I'll never try to make up for that.
Okay.
But to your point, I mean, now teams have realized, okay, we got to be aggressive on our own guys because the Lakers still have some room.
Yeah.
Other teams, Philly has room. So now,
Let's go get our guy.
if you were $5 million apart, you say, okay, we'll come up a little bit and let's get it done because you don't want your guys out there getting offer sheets that are more than what you're willing to pay.
Let me ask you about Orlando with Gordon. Obviously up and down a little bit. Great first half last year. There were questions. Would he be looking for a max deal? Is it worth it? Who else would sign a sheet? What do you think about the number? And was Orlando kind of in a situation where they had to do this, Griff, to keep?
I don't think you're ever in a situation where you have to do that if you haven't been winning with the player you're paying. I think it's really unfortunate in the era of one and done. What's happened is we're now in a situation where you have to invest that much money in a player who by the time their first deal is up very often has not been part of any winning basketball game. They've been perennially in the lottery. You haven't had to put demands upon them. So I think it's very difficult when you're in that situation. I don't think you have to. I think the reason they wanted to pay him was they saw so much growth over the last year and a half in his game and his ability to be a shot maker that they feel like he's evolving into the player they hoped he would be. And they certainly have the ability to give him any level of ball dominance he's going to need because there's nobody else who demands it at this point either.
Yeah, well, we talked about this last night, and look, I know they're a long way away from being a contender. I just think at some point you have to start building. You have to start building on some
Towards
foundation,
something, right?
You know, and so, because, look, Bama's got a chance to be really good, but it's going to take him a while. You know, they drafted Isaac last year who didn't play all year. So it's going to take him a while. He's a freshman. He was a kid. So it's going to take him a while. They have some pieces that you want to invest in, you want to take a look at. But at some level, you got to start saying, this is going to be our team for the next 2 or 3 years, and we're going to see what we have. And I just think, it's a lot of money for Aaron Gordon. I grant you that. Who's coming to Orlando as a free agent right now?
Exactly.
Nobody. So
You
might
gotta
as well-
keep going.
might
That
as well spend it
doesn't
on
change the fact, though, that is a tremendous contract that Bill Duffy secured for
No
him.
question. No question.
That's a very
Huge.
big number.
Yes.
If you're just joining us, we're all here live and rushed in because no.
I still want my
LeBron-
salmon.
What's that? You
My
still?
salmon.
I think you're
I came here for Super Mario.
you look hangry. Griff is getting hangry down there on the end. Where's his food? LeBron, 4 years, 154. to the Lakers. A lot of people thought that's where he would end up, but they weren't sure for how long or when. LeBron thanks the Northeast Ohio fans on Instagram for an incredible 4 seasons. He'll always be home, and as Dave McMenamin tweeted, sources close to LeBron say he's not going to do anything now for a while, so he will go away. This story is not going to go away for a long time. A lot of people reacting as we are here. We've got ourselves on set. We also have Sekou Smith and Czar Mike Fratello. We've got Eric Pincus, who is our czar of the other telestrator, the one with the financials. So we'll get all of that and guest cast of thousands. Let's kind of go back to the beginning just a little bit now that we've taken a deep breath. Grip, when you look at LeBron and the Lakers, what does it say about the commitment both have to each other that we see a 4-year number here on this agreement?
Yeah, I think the timing was right for this 4-year number for LeBron. He's 33. He obviously wants to make it clear where his family's roots are going to be laid down now in terms of where the kids are going to go to high school, etc. You announce your presence with authority in the movie industry. These things mattered.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that and you look at everything that comes with this, the commitment he's making is going to make it far more possible for Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka to build around him because they don't have to be desperately chasing this title. They have to maximize 4 years and not just 1.
DA, the Lakers, we know this is the beginning. Question is what comes next. A lot of names have been in play. Kawhi, Boogie Cousins, something that we talked about yesterday.
And there's still, and look, Kawhi Leonard still wants to go to the Lakers. I mean, that has not changed at all. We will see if they pull the trigger on that. And as I said before, if they think that's the best offer they're going to get for Kawhi Leonard, they'll pull the trigger. I'm not sure that's the best offer they can get for Kawhi Leonard.
Not if you look at the East now, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so teams are going to be even more desperate now to get Kawhi Leonard in the East. And so I think that we'll see what happens in the days to come. One thing about this that we haven't said, it seems obvious, but I think you have to say this, especially in L.A. L.A. is a city of stars. They didn't have any stars. Now they have a star. The biggest star on that team last year was LeVar Ball. He was. He was the biggest star on that team. Now you have a legit superstar player that people will happily come out of pocket to spend for those courtside seats at Staples Center.
How much pressure does this put on the LA Clippers now? Because the Clippers have stolen a lot of the thunder for years. They were the team in the building that everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
And the Lakers were not making the playoffs. Now they have LeBron James.
Right.
Now the purple and gold becomes more prominent.
Sure, it comes back. It comes back into order.
And it becomes even more meaningful that the Clippers proactively moved away from the Blake Griffin contract and are in position to go get 2 max players
next year.
Next year.
So they're going to be in it next year.
Are
they trying to get Kawhi?
Well, they are. Yes, they've been doing it very quietly. But the question is, what are the assets? What are you giving me? And they just don't. They have said they're not going to trade Tobias Harris, which I get. He's a good young player, and you want to, again, build around someone, and he's a good young person who's under contract, good two-way player, so they don't want to move him. All right, what else are you going to give me? And there's just not a lot there right now that is worth, again, I cannot say this enough, Finals MVP, one of the 5 best players in the league when he's healthy, in Kawhi Leonard.
Which is, to a huge degree, why I think this could very well play out, that San Antonio keeps Kawhi Leonard long enough for him to prove he's the healthy version of that.
And then it even goes up higher,
Because if you're going
right?
to back up a Brinks truck, you want to at least know you're buying a player who is ready to play. Because remember, at least one medical team has cleared him to play already, and it didn't feel right. When it's musculature and it wasn't surgically repaired, how do I know what the timeline really looks like? It might be the only way they get the Godfather kind of offer they want is he proves he's healthy.
All right, let's go cross court here and pass it over to Sekou. I think maybe, Czar, should I just throw it to you? You want to play lead here, Coach?
Look, 22 years ago, Coach, July 1st, 1996, Shaquille O'Neal made his way to the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron's impact, similar, greater, the same? What do you think in terms of just his impact on the city, the franchise, 22 years after Shaq showed up in a Lakers uniform?
I think it's very similar. We're talking about a megastar who has won championships, and now he's going to the franchise after. And I can't honestly tell you, back when Shaq signed there, I can't tell you what the 3 or 4 years were right before that, prior to him arriving there. But having said that, we know what they've gone through lately. And the fact that LeBron James has made a decision to go there, this has to have the entire city of L.A. up and excited right now.
Last couple of days, we heard so much chatter. When Paul George makes his decision, you know, the pressure is ratcheted up. Magic Johnson has to do something. They got to come away from something this summer. Does Magic still have the opportunity to execute a 2-summer plan? He talked about this summer being one piece, next summer potentially being another piece of what he wanted to do. Does he have that opportunity, or with LeBron, do you have to strike now with another superstar immediately?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen before this summer's over. There's still maybe more to come. And he certainly looked a little bit smug the other day when he made that statement about, I'm Magic and I do my job, I do what I do, and I will have great players here in Los Angeles. I said in the beginning it would take me 2 summers, but he looked like really sure that that was going to happen. So this shouldn't be a real big surprise to everybody. I said summer's not over yet. There still could be something else happening. But, yeah, he'll have the next summer to add another piece. Many more pieces will be out there next summer for him to choose from.
No question. Casey, I'm talking now if you want to go at it. We can
No, sir, we were just going to let you run. I was going to let these guys finish dinner. You shouldn't eat it.
Hey, guys, let me throw this out at you. You were talking about the Cleveland team. What are they like now without LeBron? Griff, I'm trying to do this quickly off the top of my head, but in the Eastern Conference, would this team make the playoffs? George Hill, point guard, backed up by Sexton. J.R. Smith, backed up by Clarkson. Small forward, you've got Korver, you've got Osman, you've got Hood if they re-sign him. Power forward, you got Love backed up by Nance Jr., and then Tristan Thompson backed up by Zizic, with Eric telling us there's $14 million to use right now. I think that's a playoff team next year in the Eastern Conference.
It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. It's not a group that you immediately go, they're a playoff team, but they have pieces that if they start to make other deals, they can start to spin that around a little bit in terms of fit. The fit is very poor right now because they only have one ball-dominant play creator, and that's Sexton. So when you've only got a rookie to make your plays for you, you can't count on him making other people better. Remember, that whole team was designed to play around 2 ball-dominant play creators originally in LeBron and Kyrie. They're now down to none of those that you can really have faith in. So that's where the argument can really be made. Okay, if we're going to go all the way down to the studs, these are the assets we would move. And the only argument I make against that is you're already at $68 million for next year. You don't have to do that. You can see what this group is capable of.
You know, Griff, I would throw out to you just looking at Kevin Love specifically, and I want to go back a little bit to something we talked about before, because we think about now where the conversation is going to go. We're just going to talk about Kawhi now.
Sure.
We might wish LeBron didn't decide again, just because that's where we're going to go. How much do you, in that spot, if you're Cleveland, you're Kobe Altman, at least listen? Do you throw feelers out? Because the value of Kevin Love in terms of supply and demand may be even higher than normal because he'd be the only other guy out there.
I think a lot of it will have to do with that. Certainly they would trade Kevin Love if the right package was available. And when you look at some of the other Eastern Conference teams that are playing in the here and now, it might make a lot of sense.
Sure.
It might make a lot of sense for him to go to Los Angeles. It might make sense for him to go to Portland or San Antonio, teams that are trying to win in the here and now. There are fits there, and there are certainly ways that you would act. My point is they don't have to do anything because of how clean the books are. But the one thing that I think you start to put a lot of value in, and the people that are in that room with Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey, Brock Aller, Jason Hillman, John Nichols, that team is really, really good at manifesting that which they're seeking. Their pick is encumbered for next year. It goes to Atlanta protected top 10. So the best possible scenario is probably let's finish with the 10 seed.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If we can get the best deals for the rest of the pieces.
Sure.
So they don't have to do anything. They certainly might.
It is the one thing that strikes me about this Cleveland team now going forward, and this is no slight to the very nice people in Cleveland. This has never been a free agent destination. It just hasn't. It's not a city that people go, wow, let's go to Cleveland. It just doesn't work that way. Hasn't worked that way in the NBA. Even back in the 80s, 90s, those great Cleveland teams were Price and Nance. They drafted all those guys, or they traded for them early in their careers. So what is the game plan going forward to a team that was going to have a lot of cap room, opportunity, money, Eastern Conference, all of those things you would think would be, they should be able to go get some guys. What's the game plan? How do you sell it?
We've talked about this a lot the last couple nights. It's not about cities anymore. It's destination players.
Right.
Right? Cleveland was a player for free agency when they had a destination player.
Yeah.
And so until you get one of those, yeah, Cleveland's going to be hurt by market size. They're going to be hurt by taxation, things that the league still hasn't really done anything to address, by the way, from the unfairness of the fact that some states have no state tax,
right,
and your money spends further there. Cleveland's hurt by that as well. But if you have a destination program that you believe in, and that organization absolutely does. The full bandwidth of that organization is attractive to players that haven't played in that circumstance. What you do is you take a chance on the Kawhi Leonard that could walk. You take the chance on the Kyrie that could walk. You take a chance on Paul George.
Right.
And you show them what it means to be part of this community. And when you're good at what you do in building organizations, that's how you get those key swing players.
But I think you're right. It's about making, like Oklahoma City, nobody thought Paul George was going to sign 4 years.
Right.
But Sam Presti has made that an attractive culture that players want to be a part of. I knew I was in Indiana with the Pacers when I first started coaching.
Yes.
And Donnie Walsh and the Simon brothers made that a place where the fans, where you wanted to be a part of. And so I think it's about the owner setting the tone, and everybody from down on going out and delivering that tone and that culture that you want to produce. San Antonio, you know, think about it. I mean, it wasn't a destination.
No, it wasn't.
They drafted David Robinson, got Tim Duncan, and then it became a place where players wanted, okay, I'll go play there. LaMarcus Aldridge chose San Antonio over LA. So it's about the culture that and what you're selling to the players and what you're going to provide for them. Because to get them down to it, they're not living there all year. I mean, players, as soon as the season, a lot of guys are going to their other homes and living there. So it's about, do they have a chance to win? Are their families going to be provided for nicely from the family room and treated fairly, treated nicely? Not, you know, you don't have to be elaborate, but just treat them nice, where it's a good environment. The families are coming. I always look at it, you've got to take care of the families almost more than the player, because when the player goes on the road, they're the ones, if they need a doctor, the wife's got to be able to find a doctor right away. So it's got to be a support system, not just for the players, but for their families as well, because those are the little things that have mattered to the player.
Yeah, I just real quick before we break, you mentioned Indiana. We don't ever talk about them much. I said this to you last night. You go back and you watch the way that they played the second half of the season, the budding star that Oladipo is, the way they played Cleveland. It's a really good team, so well coached as well. Is there anything they could do to spice things up and become a better team, be more aggressive? Because I think they're closer to that group than people talk about.
I agree with you.
They gave Cleveland.
Yeah, they did. They gave them the best series. I completely agree with you. Indiana is a legit. I mean, they almost won 50 games last year, and I think going forward, you would certainly expect them to be a 50-win team in a depleted now Eastern Conference without the Cavaliers having LeBron. So, yes, again, as I said before, Milwaukee, Indiana, Toronto, Washington, good teams, all of them, playoff teams, all of them. What do you do to get to that next level where Boston and Philly are right now?
Well, Steve Webb said it best. The pressure is on some of those teams.
Absolutely.
Look at Washington, Bill and John Wall. You know, they're not going to get younger.
Right.
You know, Toronto, DeRozan, Lowry, they're not getting any younger.
Antetokounmpo has 2 years before he's a free agent.
Yeah, so you have that time, and if you get to the point where he's unrestricted, he's going to say, well, I've been here, and you haven't proven it. So they're on the clock a little bit.
Well, the other thing that happens in a place like Washington is the winning you find a way to do now amortizes the value of that $47 million number at the end of his contract and makes it make a little more sense.
Yeah.
But it's only going to make sense if you capitalize in the here and now.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, Casey, to your point about Indiana, they're well poised in terms of the template they have. It's going to take a paradigm shift there in terms of what ownership views success as. Because in order to compete at the highest level, you are going to run a tax number. That organization does not do that. They were at $92 million last year. They're at $93 million on books this year. Eric can tell us exactly what it is now with everything else they've done. But it's in and around that. This is not a team that wants to run at tax numbers.
Right.
And so that comes into play at some point as well, too. You have to all be in lockstep on how good is this team really. Billy, you said it very well. If you go too soon, you put yourself in harm's way.
Right.
That franchise can't afford to miss on that.
You don't want to miss anything here because we definitely we joked about having the fever before. We've all got it now. We're not talking about because he's hangry down on the end because he didn't get to eat dinner. We got Eric Pincus, who is at the monitor. We got Sekou and Nazar, and we got UMBC.
I love it.
With one big game, and LeBron goes out west.
I love it. That's awesome.
We got more coming up from Atlanta. Don't move.